Here, and I got my news story right here, ready to rock.
All right, here we go. All right, we are back with the news. That's your cue there.
So we ready to go in the news?
Yeah, I gave the clap. Hold on, we'll do it again.
All right.
All right, we are back with Trevitt's news section. Take it away, Trevitt.
All right, I got one story this week. Comic-Con's New York Comic-Con's coming up this weekend, so there's going to be like a shit ton of news for the next week. So this week we're going a little light, especially because we're limited on time. So Marvel is launching a prequel to Wolverine's Old Man Logan arc in January, focusing on Hawkeye. First reported by the New York Daily News, Old Man Hawkeye by the New York Daily News writer Ethan Sachs and artist Marco Checchetto will follow Clinton Barton 5 years before the events of Mark Millar and Steve McNiven's original arc. In this story, losing his vision and all that, and sort of forces him to confront the really horrible things that happened to him personally 45 years ago. And it's going to be his hero's journey while he still can make the journey, you know? So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm interested in that because I really liked Hawkeye and Old Man Logan. So I think they could make this Mad Max blind Hawkeye thing work.
Yeah, I'll check out the first couple issues and see how that is.
Yeah.
Who's doing it again? Who's the writer?
He's a reporter for the New York Daily News named Ethan Sachs, and then Marco Checchetto, who has worked on Amazing Spider-Man, Daredevil, that Anakin and Obi-Wan Star Wars book, and he's done some Star Wars annuals and some of the mini series too. I think he did the Chewbacca one. I'm not sure. I think it was Chewbacca. I'm not sure, but he's done a bunch of Star Wars and a bunch of other Marvel stuff. He did Punisher with Greg Rucka. But he's a really, really good artist. He did the cover. I sent you that cover. It looks really, really good. So it's gonna be a 12-issue maxi series. So just a year, and then that'll be it. So sounds interesting.
Yeah, it does. I'm interested in that. There were just a couple other quick book announcements. There was the delay of Spider-Man 2 #4. That's delayed till I think the first week of November. So there will be no October issue coming out if you're following that series. And the fifth one hasn't been delayed yet, but I don't see how it won't be because that's scheduled to also come out towards the end of November. So we'll see there. And then the Avengers title will be going weekly in 2018. So
with no surrender.
They got some big story going on, and it's going to get pumped out weekly and be minimum of 16 issues if they don't add any or squeeze any omegas or things like that in it. So
real quick before people think it'll be like the same thing, it's going to be Avengers by Mark Waid, Uncanny Avengers by Jim Zub, and US Avengers by Al Ewing. And each week, one of those creative teams of them and their artists, which is Pepe Larraz, Kim Jacinto, and I'm forgetting the third artist, but each one of those creative teams is going to, like, you know, round robin, like one after the other. So one's going to do one, one's going to do the other. So at least we're not going to have to suffer through the same writer and like a team of artists who are going to be like creatively bankrupt throughout week after week, you know? So maybe it has a chance of being a decent story for a weekly book, but.
Yeah, so those are really all the news bits coming out here until we'll see what happens at Comic-Con. Usually the summer one is the one with more news at it. This one ends up usually being little bits of stuff here and there, so we'll see.
Marvel saves the bulk of like all the books that they didn't announce, the Jason Aaron book, like they save the bulk of their comic news for New York Comic-Con, and they do most of their movie news at San Diego, so we'll see.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens here in the coming week. We'll keep you guys updated, but we're going to move on to book section #1 and kick things off with the Mighty Thor #23. So it's a Jason Aaron heavy episode here, I guess. Trevor's going to take it away for Mighty Thor, get us the creative team and the solicit, and we'll tell you guys what we think. of this book before it kicks off into the big numbers and gets deep into legacy here.
Yes, which I'm excited for. The War of the Realms. So it's written by Jason Aaron. The art this month is done by Valerio. I always say shitty because it looks SCHITI, so it looks like shitty. Russell Dortmund's taken a break drawing the Death of Mighty Thor. The color is done by Rain Barato. Color, I mean, that's the color. The letters are done by VC's Joe Sabino and cover by Russell Dauterman, who always does the covers. And the solicit goes a little something like this. Thor against Thor. When the ultimate Thor finally goes too far, Jane has no choice but to stop him. Can she quell the rage of the War Thor before he destroys the very realms he once hoped to save? I guess we'll see. So, hold on, my fucking tablet's being a dickhead because, like, you know, sometimes I go to open the issue and then it'll back out of the whole entire app and then I have to open the app again. Here we go. So I got it. I hate it when it fucking does that.
Yeah, I forget the two apps that I use for digital issues when I download them. I use Challenger Viewer for DC and Comic Rack for Marvel.
Does Comic Rack have what's that called? The guided view, or
yeah, Comic
Rack you just do
does.
it to separate. All right,
I just do it to kind of keep it separate, but because the other one has trouble with the way DC used to send the files, like I don't know, PDFs or something. I couldn't get both of them to work.
Yeah, you know,
but I got them both.
I was trying to show Jim how to do it the other week, but he said he kept having trouble. But I found out that if you convert them to CBR, because I use Challenge Viewer, if you convert them, the PDFs to CBR and then drop them, because you know how they go up and down when they're PDFs. When you convert them, they go from side to side. So then you can get your splash pages. So you just turn it sideways, and you don't have to put up with half a splash page. This way you get.
Yeah, no, my tablet does that anyway. Oh, yeah, nice. I got it set so it automatically converts splash pages when I turn it. Yeah, sometimes the one side's fuzzy. I got to wait for it to clear up because my tablet's not the best. It's a little slow, but yeah. Anyway, Mighty Thor 23 here. Kick it off.
So Mighty Thor 23, we begin this issue where we left off in the last one, in the middle of a knockdown drag-out fight between the War Thor and Jane Foster Thor in the Yawning Void. Thor had Mjolnir transport them so that the War Thor would not do any more damage that he has already done. In the last issue, he went to Muspelheim to kill the Queen of Cinders and tried to destroy the realm. And there was actually motivation for that, and we'll find out more about that like as we go into the issue. So the War Thor swings his hammer and knocks Mjolnir into the realm of Vanaheim. There we see Wizard Bloodroot, who had already divined this War of the Thors. Then we flash back to the Yawning Void, where the War Thor looks like he is preparing it looks like you ever watch Dragon Ball Z when they do the Kamehameha?
I thought of Ryu, like Ryu from Street Fighter, like he's giving Ryu.
Yeah, it looks like that too.
Yeah.
But in that bottom panel, he looks just like Goku, like he's ready to like give a Kamehameha wave and throw lightning at Thor, and he hits her. And then the thunder is heard throughout the realms. You know, we get a brief panel of Balder the Brave, who is the brother of Odinson. And technically Loki, but he's the actual brother of Odinson in Niflheim, dreading, what may come of it, because if it's coming to hell, then it can't be trouble. Good. Yeah, it's trouble for everybody. And he's wearing that helmet that you'll see Hela wearing in the movie, because technically that's her job, what he's doing, but I guess he's the king, she's the queen, But anyway, War Thor yells at Jane that if this is what he has to do to save the realms and end all the war, then so be it. And winding back his hammer, ready to swing, he gets slammed in the back by Mjolnir, who's coming back from Vanaheim, and he drops the ultimate hammer. Jane knows that this hammer doesn't belong here and that it seems to be corrupting the user. The man known only at the moment as the War Thor, she grabs the ultimate hammer as well as her own, and tells the War Thor that it's over. This is the end. He goads Jane, telling her if she wants to win, she will have to be a raging bloodstorm, and that she doesn't have what it takes, because she's too kind. And Jane fucking loses her shit. and smacks him across the face with the axe end of the ultimate hammer, and then while screaming at him, smashes the two hammers together, and the force just fucking knocks him through like a bunch of different realms. He goes through through heaven. You know, lightning flashes across the sky in heaven.
Yeah,
It
this is
scares an
that
angel.
Angela chick, isn't it?
Yeah. Angela, who's I think she's Odinson's half sister. He's got a big family.
Yeah, she used to be the queen of hell. I don't know what she's doing in heaven now. I never read her book.
And somebody was telling me at one point that she is Angela from Spawn too. Like she's the same character or something like that.
Yeah. Like Marvel bought the rights to that character and brought her over.
That's so
and I forget
weird.
when it happened. It didn't happen that long ago. Forget the books it took place in, but she ended up having her own book for a little while.
And then Kieran Gillen, right?
Yeah.
I was curious about it because Kieran Gillen's a good writer.
I think when you start reading that book, it has some editor notes about like the book that she came from. I want to say it's Thor, but I don't think it was, strangely enough. So
I didn't see her in any of the God of Thunder because it was around Original Sin when all that happened, right?
Yeah, it might have been right before Aaron took over. I don't even know. It was a while ago. It was like right when I got back into doing the whole weekly comics thing again and like not dropped reading trades, but like stopped. That is my main way of reading comics. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Angela.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely.
I should have done her for the midpoint marvelous facts instead of one of the dudes I chose who was in a book we're not talking about. But anyway. So it scares one of the angels, and Angela, who is the queen, I guess. I don't have too much knowledge of her other than what I've already just said a minute ago. But he ends up landing in Svartalheim, which is the home of the Dark Elves, which War Thor doesn't think it's a coincidence because this is the birthplace of Malekith, and no one deserves to be punished as much as him. And he's also the person twisting the screws, trying to make the War of the Realms happen. He tells Jane that they can smite this place together and end the war in a day, so they don't have to worry about it. But Jane says, you know, she feels the anger coming from this ultimate hammer and that it wants her to rage. So she knows like it's not right. And War Thor seconds the motion, but Jane says no, that this ugly rage is not the answer to the war. And there are enough Mjolnirs and throws the hammer towards the sky, like just tries to ditch it and get rid of it. Yeah.
So War Thor, I hate calling him that because it just seems kind of funny because we end up knowing who he is. But I'm just gonna.
I know. You just want to say his name to.
Yeah, I do. I just want to say his name, but I'm gonna wait. I love his design though. I love that fucking helmet and like the black metalish look to it. It looks pretty dope.
Yeah, there's a weird part coming up I want to ask you about because I'm not totally caught up on this series yet. But keep going. Right. I'll ask you when we get there.
War Thor tells Jane that this Mjolnir is not just any hammer, but a war hammer, and without the rage, she was never truly worthy to wield it. As it comes falling back from the sky to his hand, and once he grabs the hammer, he tells Jane he will show her how a real Thor makes war, and calls down thunder and lightning that starts to shake the ground apart. So everything's just like fucking getting destroyed, like it looks like the end of the world, which is what he did in Muspelheim too, when he went to go kill the Queen of Cinders. So as we turn the page from now we're in Asgardia, where Odinson and Agent Solomon, who you'd remember previously from this run and from God of Thunder, are having they're having a conversation about the War Thor, and Solomon is trying to tell him that it is Volstagg, but Odinson is in disbelief. We're like, come on, that fat bastard who's always got a chicken wing in his mouth, there's no way. So like, not only that, but he's like the sweetest guy in the fucking world. But she changes the subject for a minute.
Wasn't he in the first movie?
Yeah, he was in all of them. He was in all of them. Not as fat as he's in the comics, but yeah, he was in all of them. He's played by Ray Stevens, who was the bad guy in like one of the seasons of Dexter. He's been in a bunch of stuff, but that's what I always remember him from. He was like a Russian mobster who like Dexter killed somebody that he loved, and they end up going at it over the course of the whole season. But so the conversation gets switched up real quick, and they end up talking about all this time how they could have been together, and she's disappointed because Odinson just disappeared, and he tells her he's ashamed of his current unworthy standing and that he didn't want her to see him this way. But before the conversation can get any more awkward, thank God, because you know some writers, and I'm gonna say any names, would have made this drone on for pages. But thank God we
I
just get
know.
like 4 or 5 panels, and that's it. 'cause
Yeah, like you get the
Jason
point of
Aaron,
it. You
thank
don't need to get into their whole personal
no,
life and regrets. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like, there's no
yeah.
point in talking about regrets in a comic when you only got 22 pages to go here.
Screw that. Especially like we're having like a war right now. Like, good, we'll just get 5 panels. It's out of the way. Thank God.
Yeah.
And then Rosalind, Agent Solomon, what have you, goes over and yells for Heimdall to find them some trouble, but more importantly, find them Volstagg, aka the War Thor. So now we're back in Svartalheim, and Jane is trying to talk the War Thor, aka Volstagg, down, telling him that they have to be better than this, and all they're going to do is create more enemies. They need to behave like gods. And Volstagg says she just fucking headbutts Jane.
Yeah, I know that.
He just smashes
They
her in the
both
head.
have helmets on though, so it's like football helmets when you headbutt a football player.
Yeah. God, Uru football helmets. Uh, so they lock hammers and they're screaming at each other, and then a giant flying goat knocks Volstagg out of the sky as someone calls him a fool, and it's Odinson, and he tells Volstagg to lay down his hammer and to end this madness. Jane is shocked that it's Volstagg because, you know, they're very close friends. They were on the Council of the Congress of Worlds together because she represented Midgard and he represented Asgardia. So they've always traveled together, and he always covers for her. They're like frickin' frack, you know, because she even lived in Asgardia for a long time. She has her own place there. But now Agent Solomon took her place because they found out she's too sick and a bunch of shit happened. But anyway, so Agent Solomon confirms that it's him, but Jane is still a little bit in disbelief. Volstagg is one of the kindest, gentlest souls she has ever met, and this rage beast can't be him. But Solomon tells her that something happened to him in oh god, this is the only realm that I really have a hard time pronouncing. It's
Yeah, good
Nidavellir.
luck. I'm not gonna have a chance about it.
It's called Nidavellir. I don't. That's the way it's spelled. Nidavellir. But so when he was there, and the fire demons invaded and committed horrible acts against the dwarves. You know, they're the people who made Mjolnir. You know, they also made that cool destroyer armor for Tony during Fear itself. So they got killed, tortured, what have you. And Volstagg was there, and he saw all the nasty shit that happened, and he lost his shit. He went fucking crazy. And this also explains why he went to Muspelheim and tried to kill everybody. That was his first stop. He went there and he just destroyed the place. Jane says she knows how to win this war of Thor's. Solomon asks her how. Jane drops the hammer and reverts back to her human, cancer-ridden form and approaches Volstagg. She tells him she understands his anger and
This
pain.
is the one part I'm like, Volstagg looks like a goddamn giant in this panel compared to
He does. He's
regular Thor.
huge.
Like, I know it confused me a little bit. I'm like, is he really that fucking big? But then it looks totally different in scale when you go down to the right.
To the right, yeah. He still towers over her, but but she's like, that thing where he's got the little clasps, those little round things that hold on his cape, and then he's got like the metal armor V that comes down to like the middle of his chest. Well, her head is like a foot below it in one panel, and then the next, her forehead is right eye level with it. So it's kind of like he shrinks or something. But I think they just wanted to show him towering over her, maybe because if you're like far back and it just looks bigger than it normally is.
Yeah, it looks more giant, like
yeah. And then I don't know how he got so ripped, because normally he's like this fat, widen all sides bastard who looks like a mess, and he's got like fucking a donut going across the midsection of his body, but right here he's ripped. So I guess grabbing the hammer transformed him a bit. So where the hell was I? Oh yeah,
well, it looks heavy just carrying it around. He's still fat, but he's just got sweet arms.
He's got sweet arms. Yeah. So she tells him she understands his anger and pain, but this is not him, and asks him to remember who he is. He tells her that he's the War Thor, and if she comes any closer, he's just gonna fucking smash her. Odin's son steps up and tells him to chill the fuck out, and clenches his fists. But Jane tells him to stand down. He doesn't mean what he says. She reminds him of who he is: a father, a husband, the senator in the Congress of Worlds and whatnot, and that it's time to come home. And then the next page, the ultimate hammer is on the ground. Solomon asks Odin's son, what are they going to do with it? And Odin's son says it's his responsibility, because as we saw, all this went on with Odin's son and the hammer. All this went on in Unworthy Thor. And he says it's his responsibility, and he has sworn to guard it, which that is when he swore to guard it in Unworthy, and he won't fail again. And then he orders it like a dog. He orders it back to old Asgard.
I know.
Like,
That was
get
my
the fuck
favorite
out of
part
here.
of the book.
Yeah, me too. It's like, no one wants you here. Go.
And the girl's like, that's not gonna work, Thor, and it works.
She's like, I'll never understand you people and your fucking hammers. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, the hammer takes off into the sky, presumably going back to old Asgard, where we saw it last before Volstagg picked it up in Unworthy Thor. And we see Jane sitting in a tree, hugging Volstagg, trying to console him. Odin's son says, even though they have seen the last of the war, Thor, they have not seen the last of the War of the Realms. And then the next 2 pages, we get flashes through the realms. We start in Vanaheim, where Wizard Bloodroot and his companion prepare for the War of the Realms. And then next we see Balder the Brave, and he's racing through Niflheim, and he says that the war has come to hell, and you could see all the lava shooting out of the sky. And even the dead are not safe. And then we're in heaven, and the queen tells one of the other angels that she wants to be alone with her thoughts. But then there's a man, and he speaks, and he asks her to sit for a moment and listen to what he has to say. And then we flash back panels. One of a Roxxon oil rig.
I know. I was just going to say that. That was wild.
Yeah, because, well, here's the thing. The guy who owns Roxxon, the guy who turns into a Minotaur, Dario, whatever the fuck. I want to say Argento, but that's a horror director. It's Dario something. Dario Agger. That's his name. Dario Agger. So that guy, he owns Roxxon. And he made a deal with Malekith. This is what part of what the War of the Realms is all about. He's like, they're like outsourcing, like he's signing contracts with Malekith. Like Malekith will take over a realm, and then he'll sign a contract with Roxxon, so Roxxon can go there and pilfer all the natural resources and bring it back to Earth, and he can make billions of dollars. So that's one of the facets. So that's what they're doing in Vanaheim, that oil rig lands. And then another of the fire demons is attacking Niflheim, and then we see the man, and it's Malekith. And then, next issue is Thor number 700, The Death of Mighty Thor, but it is also the War of the Realms, which is what Jason Aaron has been driving at since he started writing Thor. This was his big story, and then this is going to be the end. And yeah, I don't know if he's going to keep. I think he's going to keep writing Thor after that, but this was the big story that he had planned like 60 issues ago. Apparently, what he's doing.
I think he's actually done after this arc. I think he's. Well, they haven't told us what he's doing, but I don't think he's on Thor much longer. He
said he'll write Thor as long as they let him write Thor, but this is for sure the end of that giant arc. Maybe he has a plan, because he said the next big story he's going to tell, like this story, is going to be the legacy story, Avengers BC, Wolverine, all that. So that's going to be his next War of the Realms. So, I mean, I've enjoyed the fuck out of this Thor run so far.
Yeah, what do you think of this one in particular? 23, buy, borrow, or forget?
I really like this. I love Russell Dawson's normal art. I'm fully caught up now on the whole entire, from God of Thunder to just the regular Thor, and now this 23 issue Mighty Thor. And I've loved it all around. I don't know if there's an issue that I have not enjoyed. I, like everybody else, either had a one-shot issue for Legacy, or they just had a meandering like crap pile issue before Legacy. But I liked that they took the time to do like a 2-3 issue little cool story that ties into the overall arc, but at the same time is like a nice little buffer in between now and Legacy. It's a buy for me. If you like Thor, you'll like this. Jason Aaron's Thor run is probably one of the best comic book runs out there, and it's one of the best Marvel books out there. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on this one. I'm not all caught up on Thor. I'm only just beginning. Like I think it's called regular Thor, with Jane just taking over. Like she hasn't even revealed who she is yet.
Yep.
So that's where I'm at in the series, but I've read several you know, issues here and there of ahead of where I'm actually at in the reading order. And despite, you know, ruining a few of the surprises for myself, like I saw the reveal of who she is and everything, you know, a long time ago, but
Yeah.
before I decided to start reading it, really. You know, it doesn't ruin my enjoyment of the back issues in any way, which means it's just a well-written story. And this issue, like you said, for the pre-legacy issue is really a good one. And, you know, it holds your attention. And at no point, because I'm not caught up, did I feel lost either. Like, it does a good job of giving you new information while keeping you abreast on what's happened in the past. You know, I didn't know about the whole Roxxon connection really, I guess, but it's not a huge part of the story that affects your enjoyment. It's kind of just like a background thing that if you pick up on, you're connecting dots, you know? So, you know, definitely a buy for me. I like the art a lot. The story was sweet. A lot of fighting and action that looked awesome. So yeah, all the way around, I like that. But we're going to move on to Venomverse number 4. And then hit the midpoint Marvelous Facts, and the second half will be all legacy talk. So yeah, we got this series we've covered in its entirety so far, so I figure we might as well wrap up the last 2 issues. And since we've been enjoying it, it's not really much of a chore to do. But yeah, this one is basically post Carnage joining the Venom team and them having to kind of decide at some point they're not gonna just be waiting to be picked off one by one, and going to really have to take the fight to the poisons eventually. They can't just sit around and wait to be killed. So we'll get into the creative team, go over the blurb, and tell you guys what's going on here and what we think about it. This is Venom 4 of 5. It says classified, which is obviously Carnage, even though he's on the cover. I don't know why it says classified. Classified may be on their side, but the Venom's battle against the poisons is far from over. Luckily, the Venoms have a plan. Unluckily, it's a suicide mission into the heart of poison territory. So again, this is written by Cullen Bunn, artist Ivan Coelho, color artist Matt Yackee, and letterer VC's Joe Carmanga. So yeah, the issue starts off with a couple Venoms turned poisons we haven't really seen. I was kind of wondering in the back of my head, although not out loud, where Gwenpool was, and it appears she got caught. And she's hanging out with Poison Sabretooth.
They had a whole issue,
with
right,
a few
about
other
her during Edge of?
Yeah, and then they never showed her at all until she was a poison again. You would think with her being, you know, one of the highlighted characters in the Edge of Venomverse stuff that she would have been on the team to start. You know what I'm saying? But
I know. I was surprised
anyway,
she wasn't there.
Yeah, they're just kind of hanging out, looking for some Venoms to fight, kill, because they got the little poisons with them. And all of a sudden, you see Rocket start shooting at him from a rooftop. Looks like he takes out the mini guys, blows them to pieces. So that he's just left with Gwenpool and Sabretooth. And it is a setup ambush, so they can take a few of these guys out, possibly find out where they're hiding. So both Wolverines, Old Man Logan and Laura, Rocket Raccoon, and Venom are here, and they bring the fight to these poisons. They start slugging it out with each other. Looks like Laura is screwed at one point until Wolverine comes up from the back, stabs Sabretooth straight through. Gwenpool gets kind of the drop on Venom, the real Venom there, until Ant-Man reveals himself, and he blows up into giant-sized Ant Venom, he calls himself. So pretty cool panels. He's got Gwen squeezed between his hands. He's trying to hang onto her while their secret weapon gets into position, and of course that secret weapon revealed last issue to be Carnage, and he has really no problem at all slicing through Sabretooth to start, takes off an arm pretty quick. The rest of the bullets and Old Man Logan do the job to chop off Sabretooth's head, so he's no longer a threat. They squish Gwenpool. Ant-Man squishes her. And we see Poison Deadpool start creeping up. Or no, that's not Poison Deadpool yet. That's Poison Scarlet Witch, right?
Yeah, Scarlet Witch.
Okay. No, that's Deadpool. He's keeping an eye on them in that bottom one.
He's off to the corner and behind a car. I thought you meant the glowing eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, because they look a lot alike. There's several characters that when Carnage and Deadpool are on the page, Poison, Venomized, Deadpool, they look a little bit similar. I think that's why they kind of gave Deadpool those hairy legs in that one. But then they stopped doing that. So now it's confusing a little.
Because they have that same red armor. Like from behind, he looks exactly like Scarlet Witch does.
Yeah, because all the Poisons kind of have a real similar look. But anyway, we see, speaking of Poisons, Scarlet Witch, who was maybe, it seems like, also watching what they were doing, reporting back to Dr. Doom, updating him on the progress of their plan. And then we see Black Panther and Mania kind of just keeping an eye out for anything wild going down. They apparently only squished Gwenpool to, bring her into captivity. They didn't kill her because now Carnage is trying to interrogate her, get some information out of her about where the Poisons are all hiding. Where's their main base of operations so they can go in and take it down now that they got Carnage on their side. Carnage makes it very clear that he's willing to help them, but then as soon as he does that, he's going to kill everybody. So it's really an uneasy alliance going on here. Gwenpool basically, is trying to buy herself time when she probably anticipates some Poisons coming to her rescue at some point. When what does happen is Deadpool comes busting into the room, and he's the one that ends up killing Gwenpool. And they're kind of all pissed off that their lead is dead, and Carnage goes leaping after him. Really what happens here is after a brief little fight, Deadpool, despite being poisonized and, probably having something to do with his special brand of craziness, is able to kind of fight off this poison for small periods of time. And he's kind of being like a double agent here. What I can't tell is if he's really playing the long con here and going to then betray them back once he gets them where he wants them. That's still yet to be determined. It doesn't look like that yet, but that's kind of going on in the back of my mind because he gives them the lowdown on where Doctor Strange is and where the poison base is. Speaking of Doctor Strange, good transition for me. 5. Strange is
perfect segue.
Doctor Strange is hanging out in his little defense shield, all chained up. The Poisons try to trick him. He's not falling for any of that nonsense. The good guys try to, trust Deadpool. Are you getting blown up there?
Yeah.
Trust Deadpool the best they can, and decide to use the information to go on the attack, try to rescue Doctor Strange. What happens next is Deadpool and Carnage kind of have a kind of a feeling out of each other.
Deadpool, back in 2 seconds.
Deadpool's got him by the throat. Yep. And we just check back in on the Poisons. Now the Poisons are all hanging out. We got Spider-Man, Captain America kind of discussing some plans. We see Deadpool reporting back to really kind of what looked to be the 2 leader Poisons besides Doctor Doom. And he is dragging in Carnage by the venom tentacles he has. And I am not totally sure if this is, again, a setup on Deadpool's part on behalf of the Venom guys, or is it, him truly being full on poison and not being able to control the crazy. And that's kind of how we're left with this issue as the cliffhanger. So yeah, we'll see where this ends up going. There's one more issue left next week. Wrap it up and we'll cover it for you guys, let you know how it is. But you know how we do things. We tell you to either buy it, borrow it, or forget it altogether. And I don't know about anybody else, but this has just been an in general fun series for me to follow. I mean, the art has been fantastic by Ivan Coelho. You know, he hasn't had a down issue yet. All four have been by the same art team. So, you know, if you do end up trade weighting this thing, you got a nice consistent story artistically to follow all the way through the book. The fight scenes are great. All the characters look pretty cool, even the poisonized versions of them. Like I said, Carnage, Deadpool, and Scarlet Witch all kind of look a little bit similar. But you know, it's not too hard to tell them apart if you really look at the panel. The story again is still fun to me personally. I've had a blast with it. Cullen Bunn has been doing a pretty good job, and you know, it gets the strongest event mark scores that I can give it. It's just been a quick, fun little story that ends next issue, and you know, I can't wait to see how it all wraps up. What about you? What do you think about it? Buy, borrow, or forget?
You know, someone the other day was saying on Twitter that this story has no substance and it's not enjoyable at all. And I fucking, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This is one of the best Marvel books they got going right now, for real. One of the best events they've, or crossovers.
As far as substance goes, it's not a super deep story. Like, yeah, it's one side that's good against another side that's bad. But I mean, it's
very basic.
Boil every comic book story down to. You know, there's not like a whole bunch of twists and turns you don't see coming. But it's just been, you know, a simple, fun, basic Venom story that's
right to the point.
Yeah, it had a lot of call outs and been fun. If you're a Venom fan, I don't see how you couldn't like it.
And after a year of like having all this elaborate stuff that didn't pan out, it's nice to have some like, right? It's like nice to have like a simple, fun popcorn flick to read, you know, like I have a great time with this book. All the characterizations are dead on. I love all the characters. I love everything they're going through. It's a buy for me. I really enjoyed this book. The Iban Coelho art is fantastic. Cullen Bunn does a great job keeping it simple and keeping it good. So it's a really good story.
Yeah, I think you know, to ask for a 1.5 year Venomverse story with I Am Hydra type twists is asking a little much, and I wouldn't. I wouldn't be invested in that. I wouldn't want to read that. So
like another one.
I think the way they decided to do it is pretty good. I think that just might be somebody that had their mind made up before it released and hasn't really maybe checked out an issue beyond the first one. But anyway, we're going to wrap up book section number 1 here. We're going to kick it off to the Midpoint Marvelous Facts and Marvel Legacy. So we'll be right back.